Welcome back to the College COD playoffs here in Columbus, Ohio at the Belong Arena, and I'll tell you, that first winner's bracket, woo! My goodness, did we get a lot of really hot action, really tight, not only in the series that we were focused on, but also Westcliff and St. Clair getting all the way to Game 5. We're going to be carrying on with Westcliff as they're going to be going now up against Northwood. Really, really tough, I would say, overall as far as things are concerned. But at least for Westcliff, they're looking solid, not just in their postseason run to get here, but clutching up to 2-3-5 against St. Clair.
That's right, yeah. Being able to win that map 5 versus St. Clair was massive going forward because it gives you a nice head of steam of momentum, right? Because you say that it's going to be tough because you're going up against Northwood. I think that every single matchup is going to be tough this weekend. Everybody is playing some of the best Call of Duty that we have seen some of these collegiate athletes showcase for us throughout the entirety of the regular season. But now you're going to need all of that plus some more if we're looking and leaning into this locked narrative that he outpaced the majority of St. Clair Saints in the middle of the map of Tuscan. That's just a very small sample pool of what could be offered throughout the entirety of this best of 5.
A lot of things to consider because for this Northwood team, the only flaw that they had was against Bay State during Stage 2. Let's get to know him. It's Northwood.
Not necessarily in a position to try to fly at this either, because you still have Radial on top ring who will find 2.
Goes for the fast defuse. Radial gonna get one shot in, knows to check the bomb right away. Is he gonna check it fast enough? But the bigger problem here is that it's 26-22.
We rock down all of that second corridor plus that B lanes, and now you're messing with high ground positioning here from Bing, just trying to finesse their life.
Down here before he can consider getting to the 7th. Oh, big double for Infinite up top.
We're all looking for that rotation, looking to find themselves on site, but Infinite has something to say about it.
Up and you gotta turn around. If you're Talon, you're gonna get shot in the back. Fame able to get one, gets tagged up. Can he get away with his life? He can get away with a double.
He dared to really follow through with them, to hold down that side, keep the trades off with them, and even then, that's a huge choke off for St. Clair.
This Northwood roster, man, I mean, it's just, yeah, you see them on paper and you expect them to be a major competitor throughout the entirety of the regular season. The only team to 3-0 in the opening round versus Southern Illinois, and I think a lot of it, you look at Fame, he's back into Modern Warfare form, just came off a great performance from Toronto, and you've got Beacon Infinite, who, as much as they have not necessarily put together the greatest Challenger season compared to some of their historical years, they're still super, super talented.
Yeah, they are, and it brings a lot of success along with it through many different years, both Bink and Infinite, as far as what is concerned to be, I mean, a cornerstone of success for teams is that search and destroy. That is quite prevalent when you're thinking about what this team has to offer. Not to mention what you have to talk about, that fourth player, Chris Radial. It just seems to be a yearly substance that he keeps saying that he's going to retire. He's not retiring. Now he's going to come back. This is supposed to be his last hurrah. He's been scrimming. He's been putting down the work, man. And Radial, when he is on, we've seen it through Challengers Elites in past. This guy has an inch to breathe. He will run away with a mile.
I'll tell you, the curls are just intact this weekend.
Truly.
They bounce. They're luscious. They're great. Well, let's look back over at this regular season because as we had kind of teased upon, the only thing that really stands out is what you're going to see there in the key losses. And really, as much as we say key losses, it was as tight as you'd like as far as the series was concerned. The only real thing, though, when you look at this Northwood squad, you know, in total, they've lost 5 total maps. 4 of them have been by way of the search and destroy. So that's where I think first and foremost, you look at this Northwood roster and you need to see marked improvement, especially after what we just saw versus Bay State, because not only are you going to have to find a way to be better than you were last time you played Bay State when you hopefully eventually beat them, but you can't overlook this Westcliff team as well, who have been really good, as mentioned, in the 2 and the 5 particularly.
Exactly. It's just one of those things, again, for search and destroy, it needs to be cleaned up if it is Northwood. You go back to their week 1 loss versus St. Clair on that Bocage search, wake-up call. Losing round 11 to McMaster in stage number 2 was certainly interesting to say the least. Say that this team needs to be able to piece it together. The teamwork and the chemistry wasn't there to start things off, but as the year has been progressing, this team has been finding much more success than what they were looking like out of stage 1.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, too, is you look at how they were able to handle their group stage with absolutely no problem, is that on the respawn, you expect this team to put together some of the highest overall kills maybe at the LAN overall. So For the Timberwolves, a lot of confidence still going into this year, especially considering the fact that, for what it's worth, like, Bay State and Northwood have played in other venues before, and Northwood has beaten them in the past. So it's really just in the CCL in particular that these guys, had some struggles putting together that search and destroy near the end of stage 2. But you take a look as you see the very fun personality of Fame obviously coming to life during the team intro. You expect the vibes to be high here, and I think the expectation going into this matchup is this should be a win for Northwood.
I'd be concerned if the vibes are relatively low for this squad. It's such a vibey team. I got to catch up with them when they first rolled in for Media Day yesterday. They were definitely feeling pretty darn good about themselves headed in towards this tournament. They were talking about what you were also kind of hinting at, is that this Northwood squad, at least the majority of the time that they have actually gone up against, I would say, their rivals throughout the entire year of Bay State, they have beat them. So they are feeling very, very confident coming in towards this LAN weekend. I would definitely say that this would probably lean more towards a win for Northwood. The confidence is high, the vibes are there. We'll have to see if they can follow through with it.
Well, on the other side, of course, we saw them in map number 5, but let's get to know the Westcliff Warriors before we jump into game.
That was out, pushing out falls. He pushes out of the hill. Player 3 going to pick it back up, and now you can push him.
Team positioning on this, and moments at efficiency here. Right now, Warriors are looking like bullies on the map. Lucasi on 5 in a row. Can he find 6?
Still be up, going in towards the second set of rotations, right in and around.
2 for 1. Stoner's in this top position still.
Oh, looking for his 5th. Teammates come out to help. It's a full 4 down to break back into this hill. But you look at this play out of the ASU. They completely neglect lock. They push to the middle of the map. They completely have 3 players slip through the line. Sprack's going to get overwhelmed. 3 players there. He's a little bit shocked.
This Warriors team at the beginning of the year was really kind of looked at by a lot of the community just off of some of the early season and kind of preseason matches, tournaments, scrims that had been played. And I think the biggest thing is not only did they carry some favor early in the year with expectations, but they really established it in their run through the postseason. The only real big kind of problem that they've had so far was St. Edwards. Losing to them not once but twice, one of which in the group stage. But the big thing is you're coming through with a lot of confidence after that map 5 win versus Ottawa.
I don't know how you wouldn't be able to have that momentum going in your way, right? I mean, when you're thinking about this Westcliff Warriors squad, you said it best at the beginning of the season. People were looking at this 4-player roster and really just thinking too much of them. But this is a team full of grinders, man. They were week 1. Boots on the ground, they were running, and they were ready to make sure that they had all 4 corners absolutely polished, squeaky clean, to make sure that they did not have any weak game modes. They were playing every single map possible through many of their Stage 1 and Stage 2 matches to make sure that they were playoff ready off the rip.
Well, looking at their regular season, they were really impressive in Stage 1, kind of, again, carrying through the favor that was attributed to them before the season even started. But then you get to Stage 2, and they found themselves in a really difficult overall top-tier group. And the big thing was we weren't sure how things were going to look versus teams like Texas State and Arizona State, who had also put together great runs out west.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter was you come through, you beat both of those 2 teams, and it kind of establishes them as, for sure, a top 10 threat in the CCL. Obviously, we kind of mentioned some of their key losses, really tight affairs. Obviously, losing to St. Edwards and Ottawa, but also that map 5 versus ICC was a tight one that went really map for map, round for round, punch for punch. So Westcliff really solid throughout the entirety of the regular season, and of course led into their postseason run where they really set the tone, and I think just for a lot of people established a difference maker in where they were compared to other teams that they had faced throughout the regular season and lost to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, throughout Stage 2, as you were saying, those 3 key losses are certainly going to be felt. Obviously, some good vibes were there, but you can see that the chemistry had taken a page for the better when it comes down to their Stage 2. Although they did lose to both Ottawa and St. Edwards, being able to take a map off of both of those 2 teams is nothing to scoff at when you're thinking about this Westcliff Warriors roster, that the Warriors have been able to piece themselves together. Quite a nice season. Has definitely shut a lot of the haters up. Just comes down to making sure that you can follow through with that on LAN, because there's a big test ahead of you.
Taking a look at their group, again, not only did they meet St. Edwards in the regular season, but they found themselves locked into the same group as them in the postseason to get their qualification run put together. And looking at the individual map scores, I mean, it couldn't have been any tighter. Both respawns within about 20 points of one another. And then, of course, the Search and Destroy, which has kind of been, I would say, the biggest vulnerability for a lot of CCL teams. At least for Westcliff, you were able to stay competitive versus a very good Surge team. And that's where I think if you're looking at this matchup in particular, you're going to have to continue to be good, because that's the only vulnerability that we've seen from Northwood is their Search and Destroy. And honestly speaking, for Westcliff, it's not your weakest game mode. In fact, I think you could look at it and say this might be one of your best game modes coming into the weekend in total.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Because again, like I was saying, I mean, Call of Duty's history has always talked about the chemistry off of one another, the blind trust in Search and Destroy off the setups, the rotations. It all needs to be there. And I generally do believe that that could be, again, where this Warriors squad comes out on top, is the 2-3-5 being able to collect on top of a squad of Northwood that doesn't spend all the time in the world comparatively to the Warriors.
Well, as we go and continue to kind of look at this, I think the biggest thing here is it's tough. Like, as much as we want to try to put together a tight affair, just due to the fact that Westcliff has really proved themselves, especially in their regional bracket in particular, to qualify, this is a different caliber of opponent on the other side of the screen. Like, the fact of the matter is these two teams had not met one another yet. And against other playoff teams that are here, Westcliff has been close, but they're not quite into the same, I'll say, like, kind of power ranking as a lot of the other teams that are here in Respawn in particular. The hard point has to be good off the rip here if you're Westcliff if you want to have a chance in this series, in my mind.
Even more so than that, too, if they lose the opening hard point, you can't afford to get demoralized, because you have to understand who is across the table from, or across the stage, I should say, from you is this Northwood roster. The hard point definitely needs to be fundamentally sound. I will say that much, because you need to be able to exemplify that against the best of the best of what we were able to see from their matchup against Ottawa Online, is that the composure is there. It's just about following through with it and making sure, again, not to get dissuaded from that map 1 loss that could honestly end up coming through, to make sure that you do lean on the success that has to be the Search and Destroy for the Warriors.
It's just one of those things. We said it a lot last year talking about both the Ottawa Gold and Black teams. There is a skill difference on the other side. And individually, that was really cemented after Toronto for a player like Fame in particular. It just lights out. And he's back to what we kind of known him on his come-out year during Modern Warfare, where he was lights out pretty much from start to finish. Slowed things down in Cold War. Couldn't really find a solid team, but this last weekend, playing with Rex, Pentagram, and Panda, rather, he really was a shining star for that team. So he's going to be a major threat on the opposite side. And it's one of those things, whenever we talk about teams like that, if you find yourself as the quote-unquote underdog having to play up against a player and kind of a collection of players like that, you have to be so good fundamentally as a core group of 4. You cannot just rely on one player to pop off. Everyone has to be on the same page, because let's be honest, like, you may not get to a map 5 against this team. And if you're relying on 2-3-5, you just never love to have that when you've got a caliber of players.
For Bay State to move across the map to then try to break the hard point. From there on out, you just felt like there was too much respect, that all of St. Edwards are probably sitting in the back, just waiting for the gunfights to come to them. By the time they finally did, they were getting flanked, they were getting pinched.
I think the biggest thing about a map like Berlin that is going to provide natural advantages for a team of Bay State is due to the fact that you've got so much great individual talent. An individual player can completely turn the entire dynamic of what a map looks like, whether that be on setting up an aggressive perimeter around a hard point to get a setup for good time, or more importantly, off of an exit, finessing a 1v1, 1v2 long enough to allow the rest of your team to hit the rotation. So those are really the key things that we have to keep an eye out for if there's going to be an upset of this Bay State team, maybe just in particular on a map like Berlin, because at the moment, they're kind of winning the war on multiple fronts, it feels like. But that is just a look into what's going on in the other upper semifinal matchup. Our main focus is going to stay with Northwood and Westcliff, and we're already into map number 1. It'll be a Gavudu hard point to kick us off. And for Westcliff, in a pretty good situation. Good opening eliminations. Actually, in fact, it's going to be 3 straight, leaving Fame by himself. And he's not going to be allowed to stay alive for any longer as the good cleanup comes out of Westcliff with the opening a little bit of time here.
I actually really like this map pick coming out, specifically for the Warriors. This is where you can really layer on the pressure, knowing that Northwood are going to try to outpace you. It has been their key to success for a lot of different instances against a lot of different opponents throughout the entirety of the Vanguard year. 3 kills on the rotation, it comes through. Scrap time should be soaked up here for Northwood, and it should be conceded for Westcliff as they're trying to set themselves up into LSE early.
Yeah, and again, the pressure for Northwood is already forcing Westcliff to have to make that decision. So some of the things we're talking about as far as advantages for a team like Bay State on Berlin coming into play here in favor of Northwood. But for the moment, Westcliff in a pretty comfortable position when it gets to having numbers on the new point. But the problem is they're not really able to read where exactly Northwood's coming from, or in particular, where Radial's coming from. 5 in a row, looking to pick up a trade on the Beaston, but Lucasi will shut down the threat of streaks. And Westcliff, not bad at all for this first 15 seconds, and then possibly more, but no. It's Infinite and Fame, 3 straight eliminations, and now Westcliff are on the outside looking in.
Just isolating, finding the information, trading it to their teammates, and then collapsing on it entirely. This has been the systematic play that we have seen Northwood come to be throughout the entirety of the CCL years specifically. Of course, you got a little bit of a spawn situation. Player number 5 is locked, needs to play their life over here, is able to find at least one, but you have to buy so much time while the rest of your teammates have to hit through P2. You simply cannot allow Fame to set up shop and hit free.
12 seconds of scrap time. Grado looking to finesse for it, while, as you mentioned, Westcliff looking to hit rotation. Stoners for 1, but does get caught off guard as Bink was quick on the ready for a trade. One more opportunity for Westcliff to try to flip the tides of what is surely going to be additional time for Northwood. And that comes by way of number 7 in Beaston, our star student in this matchup. And he's gotten around the back. He's going to pull Lock with him. And all Northwood, they're not going to realize this fully. They do get good ring control, and Infinite does get a turn to realize, okay, wait a second. They've spawned behind us. I need a little bit of help, please.
Now, you can realistically hold this from the front. If you are Northwood, there's still 40 seconds left to play over. You have an 80-point lead over Westcliff. They have to force the play. Lock with the nade, finds one. Now that space provided to be able to move their way forward, and you also have Stoners making a proactive play going on the bottom side of the map. That'll force a spawn in for Northwood, while Lucasi is still finessing their life on the hardpoint itself.
Largely speaking, though, for Westcliff, this is fine. You were absolutely right from the front. Northwood with wing control and high ground mid. That leads to an opportunity to hold from the front, but a break attempt comes through, and you're actually able to put Northwood back onto the furthest point of the map away from radar. So yeah, the score is getting a little bit out of hand. But as far as Westcliff is concerned, you're essentially 50-50 P3, and you're in a position to win rotation to 4. Can you hold? That's the real question here, as Beaston will spawn up in place. Westcliff will have to essentially just bunker up and see what they could do from inside the hard point itself. Good help out of Stoners and Beaston to get the first 2. There's a really solid read on where the Timberwolves are trying to hit from. Then the nades coming off the respawn will allow Westcliff an opportunity to really establish a solid first 30 seconds.
And they're doing well to not over-aggress as well. I mean, look at player number 6 on the minimap. Lucasi has this entire cross watch. It just comes down to finding the timings, but the nades coming in will keep Westcliff back just a little bit. Northwood's going to be able to reinsert themselves inside of P4 with 20 seconds left to play. This could turn into a nasty spawn trap if the Warriors are not careful. Yeah, really, as much as it was a credit to Westcliff on P3, getting around the back and forcing a split time on P3, it's Northwood doing it from the front, just forcing their way up the jump platform to essentially do the exact same thing on 4. Tally the minimap really quickly. Westcliff spawning right side of the map. Quote-unquote favored spawns going towards P5. And as they deal with Bink, that will now be cemented. It's just down to now taking care of the last couple of players in and around green. Radial for the opener has stayed very healthy with a chance to contest for more, and there it is, a double pull for Northwood, and that will be enough for them to really lock in the initial 15 to 20 seconds here on the 5th. Yet another very realistic hardpoint you can hold from the front. The spawn in will occur for Northwood, as Westcliff were trying to set themselves up for ring control and LST shift at the same time. They want to be able to pinch this in any way, shape, or form, but they were unaware where Northwood were specifically located at. They might have assumed that they were still spawning in essentially for 4 or over by the cliff path. A little bit of a mystery coming through for Westcliff Warriors, as Northwood have built themselves a 110-point lead.
That's real tough, man. For the Warriors, I think you look back at what just happened from 3, 4, and 5, and you say, we made all of the right moves positionally and even with a little bit of enforcement to give ourselves the best possible looks to generate score, generate time, and possibly, I think for a lot of people, if you were to take screenshots of the minimap, say, we could take the lead here. But once again, the individual presence out of Northwood allows for clean breaks and kind of dire last-second holds. So we rotate back over to the AA gun. Westcliff staring down what is essentially a smoking barrel as Northwood get another full team wipe. Clean break leads to Northwood likely getting over the 200-point mark.
Yeah, now Northwood are starting to feel themselves. You're getting very aggressive challenges coming out from SMG players. Radial spawns back in with one, presses it all the way forward to the bottom side of green. Now you have Fame watching this second cut. As soon as someone tries to cross forward, Fame will cut them down, but Locke will at least find a trade. But it's just these stray trades that keep coming through from the Warriors. It's never convincing kill feeds down to fully break inside these hard points.
And that's just good value of individual lives from the Timberwolves, like right here. Infinite is just delaying gunfights.
So annoying.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's just, it's more than a nuisance. And then for him to turn it into a 3rd straight kill, that may be a dagger here early in this series. Westcliff down big without the ability to necessarily even get early numbers towards LSD, and oh boy. It's just another convincing kill feed. It just feels like every single time there's a key moment on the map, you look over to the kill feed and it's Northwood for 3, for 4, for 5, only getting taken down once or twice, and now all of a sudden you start to consider 100-point club conversations if you're Northwood looking at a convincing setup here on 2.
Oh, Bink gets kill number 7. That's number 8, right around the corner, gets the damage to the pistol, draws circles around Stoner, still gets a glide bomb. Yeah, 237 and counting up for Northwood. Finally, the break does come through, but to say you got to play flawless hardpoint going forward on a map like WR2, that's a good luck, have fun moment.
Yeah. Definitely feels that way. And again, we didn't really get a chance to see too much of the Northwood versus Southern Illinois, but for what it's worth, the opening hardpoint score was 250 to 110 in that series. It was not just a 3-0, but it looked like all 3 maps were very convincing, and that will definitely be a word used here as Northwood punch home a 250 to 73 win. My goodness. And yeah, cheek to cheek, smiles all around.
I'd be concerned if I actually saw Fame's camera and he was never smiling, even in a loss. He just has one mode, just smiles. But even more so than that, again, like when you go back and you watch the beginning of that WR2 hardpoint, Northwood came out fundamental. Like they were willing to at least try to trade or play for the trades, you know, play for the information off the nades, play for some power positions. But then you saw it click halfway through P1, going in towards P2. They were like, oh, we're just gutting these guys. And then that kind of set up the rest of the pace that was that WR2 hardpoint, where you had Radio going AWOL. With even an SMG, we talked about that in our first series of the day, how much value an SMG going rogue like that can find. That was Radio for it right there. And then also being able to finesse one's life, as much as all 4 of those players that are represented here for the Timberwolves are able to do. Just it gave themselves so many different moments to be able to close out that match.
Here's the thing, before we really get too far ahead of ourselves here, Northwood should be the better hardpoint team. Just based on what we've seen from the regular season, both in the first stage and more importantly, I would say for both teams in the second stage. The thing about it is, I just don't see a world here where Westcliff is going to win 2, 3, and 5. Like, I feel like you have to be able to take one hard point off this Northwood team. And I think that your generalization around, hey, if you're Westcliff looking at a Gavudu hard point, your ability to kind of keep Northwood at arm's reach is definitely there just by the way the map is designed. Problem about it was you weren't able to keep it at arm's reach because Northwood was just so quick. And we really got that off of that first radar break. Even though Westcliff had a solid read on where Northwood were coming from, one little adjustment allowed Northwood to jump on in, and from there it just felt like every single key moment was going the way of the T-Wolves.
It's just that one player, that one extra timing to be able to play the flank, to be able to call the bluff of Westcliff, to assume where they knew all of Northwood was coming from. It just really goes to show you, man, your flank is never truly secure unless you do get a full 4 dead. Only 18 non-traded kills for Fame. Again, was just almost felt like he was having himself a laugh throughout the entirety of the game, just playing an AR role, picking up an SMG where it felt necessary to do so. But yeah, definitely feel like they are the better hardpoint team. That was obviously exemplified in the 100-point club. We move over towards the search and destroy on Toscan.
Has to be a win here for Westcliff. Just has to be. I mean, look, if you're trying to put together win condition overall for this Westcliff team, the first place you look is 2-3-5. And obviously that means every map 2 is going to be a must win for you. But I think it's just the depth of what they've put together and what we saw during the run through playoffs. It can't just be that. It has to be that plus some. I think is the biggest thing, especially seeing that they had to go map 5 versus a team like St. Clair, not to, disrespect St. Clair at all, but they are not Northwood, right? So, I mean, if you're struggling in hardpoint versus a St. Clair roster, you better be perfect in your search and destroys. And for what it's worth, the search and destroy wins did look pretty convincing, largely speaking, for Westcliff, not just through the postseason, but also I believe map 2 against St. Clair was a pretty convincing one. So it's do or die time right in here, right now. You hate to say that early in a series, but for Westcliff, this is absolutely your chances at a series. You're not going to reverse with this Northwood team. That's just no two ways about it.
Yeah. I mean, again, to call a spade, there is obviously a differential when it comes down to individual mechanical skill.
Yeah.
That should be the swaying factor for Northwood when it comes down to hardpoint and, yeah, maybe even control, as you saw that was going to be going towards Berlin. That said, you would feel for the Warriors, again, from what we've talked about, this Northwood roster, if there's one mode that they have struggled with continuously throughout the entirety of the year, losing to St. Clair in week number 1, losing to McMaster in round 11, stage 2, not to mention what Bay State did to them, taking both 2 and 5 in convincing fashion. There is an opportunity here for the Warriors to even up the series count 1 apiece. You just have to answer the question later on down the line. Is it the control or is it map 4? You just hope that one of them is going to be comfortable for you, but it starts here.
See what's going to be here for Westcliff. And for what it's worth, we did just see Westcliff play this map versus St. Clair. And we know that they want to put a lot of focus up towards mid-map. You can definitely get that insinuation by the nades that are being tossed to try to control. But the counter nades from Northwood have not just allowed them to keep mid-map clear, they've also already taken over you. So Westcliff, for the moment, off the start, really don't have a lot of ground to work with. You got to win an opening gunfight, and that actually does not happen as Locke will fall over towards Wellside Stairs.
How do you react off of this? You would almost assume your bomb carrier, Vlukasi, needs to just hold this position, either rotate back over to join their teammates, or the opposite. Wall almost gets broken. Fame's right here.
Oh, no.
Almost gets a snap on the Stoners, but at least it'll be a trade, 2v3.
1 for 1 right there for Fame is more than enough. You've stopped the hit towards B. The defense can adjust, put themselves in prime position. Stoners will still sneak through over to Patio, but do they read that not only Infinite are here, but Bink is also watching this cross. Actually, Infinite may be a little bit caught off guard. He's trying to re-wrap back over around the backside. He's going to get red. So really nice here from Westcliff. You've got the vacancy you need. Radio's still playing on the backside of P5, waiting to see where exactly this post punt's going to get set up. The stun will miss. Radio will use that as an opportunity to come out and find the trade. But as Beeson does the same at the backside of Column, it's going to force a 1v1. And Radial's going to see Beaston rotate, but this is just a head fake. He's going to come back to the play, make sure no one's under the fuse, and now they're going to beat over towards mid-columns. Beaston tagged down to 4 HP, and no problem for Chris to clean things up.
Yeah, I mean, Radial played that wonderfully. You're thinking about it, right? Either the teammates called it out, or Chris saw it. One player just trying to wrap on the backside of that staircase leading up towards Church. The biggest difference is that Beaston did not see Radial up top.
Yeah.
Not being able to get that information on a radio, not having any sort of ordinances to be able to get confirmation on Radial's positioning was just an open opportunity for success for Radial to be able to fish out that kill, make the full wrap happen from the backside off the information that was gathered. Also found first blood, keep in mind shutting down any sort of mid-map antics that we know that Locke was looking for continuously in that search and destroy versus St. Clair.
Quick rotation out of Northwood as they look to get over towards headquarters quickly. Defensively, Kasi is looking to play off the exit, but Northwood is going to turn this into an immediate rotation back towards mid. Mid-use is going to be a bit of a problem, but nades are being cooked out. That'll clear one side. Locke will stay concealed, though. So as far as Westcliff's defense is concerned, you feel good about your current position.
No need to over-aggress. We saw this. Forcing out errors from St. Clair, but look what Northwood are starting to do. They're trying to stack themselves up. 3 players trying to go across the ruined side. Got Heady being held by Stoners finds first.
Oh, but Locke actually pushed back, so hold on a second. Treacherous waters, so you would see, but Stoners still able to collect the last 2 remaining Northwood members over towards the field side. So it's on Radial, 4 in a row, 30 seconds to play for what would be a 1v4, and well, I think everyone who is a COD fan is going to say Radial's is going to probably just finesse his life and try to extend towards potential streaks. Maybe an opportunity to catch 1 or 2 off guard from this kind of concealed position, but does actually force himself forward. A bit surprised by it, and Westcliff are happy not just to take the round, but also take off the threat of streaks early.
Probably didn't feel like he was safe no matter where he was located at. Regardless, benefit of the doubts aside. Wonderfully played out from Westcliff Warriors on the defense. They set themselves up very, very sturdy-like. Just putting themselves in positions that if anybody crossed the middle of the map, they were going to get gunned from a crossfire. You saw what happened the moment that they tried to push through P5. Gunfire came back through on the opposite side, shut them down. The moment that they tried to get across that A lane, across the ruins, Stoners was playing one of the God Headies over there and just locked down a multitude of kills, walked away with the entire ace.
Good at this time for Northwood, trying to contest back through mid. Had a little bit of assistance early from Radial, but that will be moved as Northwood are going to get aggressive over from the B side of the map. Infinite able to clear off the well side stairs. That'll be enough for Radial to turn that into a free look at a first blood. So problems once again starting to crop up here for Westcliff's offense as they are probably going to feel a little bit trapped, especially with how fast Northwood's playing to the middle of the map. But the timing here could work out. Stoners with the bomb in hand will back off, kind of force a bait and switch as Beasted from topside fire will turn the tides for a time towards Westcliff's favor as they've got not just in towards A, but they're actually going to decide to play through it.
Oh, and they know that Radial's still over here as well, so Fame reads it, jumps out from P5, finds that kill on a Beast in top fire, and understands that the play is going to be coming from the rotation. Fame is above this play currently happening. Stoners finds Radial, is on 5 in a row. Would love to be able to fish out this kill, but it's a 1v1 v Fame.
Stoners takes the first move. Doesn't fully check his corner, though, and Fame gets the first shots in! Difficult 1v1, but it's able to become no problem for Fame, largely speaking. It's just the fact that he gets in this cheeky little corner. I don't know how much the foliage helps conceal them, but Stoners didn't able to get the full check initially. Was just a touch too late to the gunfight.
He was moving so slow, if at all, that he was just another fixture on the map of Tuscan. I mean, for Fame, that is, that's massive, because it mostly just comes down to, again, just fully clearing all of the corners, those key fundamentals, but the pressure was on. You were under 20 seconds. You had to be able to fish out that kill. Tough scenes. The Stoners was also on 5 in a row. Offensive attempt here for Northwood. Gonna put themselves down over by P5 along with the bomb. Doesn't mean they're committed over towards B, but gotta be careful because Locke just found themselves an avenue through Fire Alley.
This should be isolation of Bink. That's the idea for Westcliff, and it's fulfilled. So now you go back over to Lucasi, who just needed to get one, and he holds down the trigger for more than that. A double comes through. In the Warriors defensively, play just a touch more aggressive than Northwood were expecting, and it leaves Fame in a 1v3. 4 kills to his name already, kind of a similar position that Radial was in from the last offense. He's gained a lot of space, and with the bomb, this is definitely possible. Just comes down to, do you actually even get a read on where Westcliff have rotated to?
Lord knows what corners they could be lurking behind. Westcliff, though, I almost thought that all 3 were going to give it up entirely. Beast doesn't fully clear this out from top radio, so the bomb will get planted and Fame gets out.
He's got a lot of space to work with. He's going to catch Stoners on rotation here. Needs to finish the kill and does. No one nearby for a trade. And look at the nade being cooked. This is going to guarantee that no one's on for a defuse, but the problem about it was Beeson was on the other side. Able to secure the trade, no problem. And no 1v3 antics here for Northwood. We go punch for punch, defense for defense, tied at 2 through 4.
And again, you got to really look at what Locke was able to do throughout the entirety of the St. Clair map number 5 on this map mode combination. Locke was finding infamous amount of value through the middle of the map, finding these timings, working the angles along with Beeson up top to be able to fish out these first bloods, give themselves the advantage. But Lucasi, again, where you even said too, just needed to find one, holds down the trigger, and gets the 2-for-1 special for Northwood, just challenging out from the doorway. Massive to be able to find that much value through the middle of the map, plus being able to shut down that B site push. Northwood are looking for an answer to stop any momentum that Westcliff might be building for themselves.
Interesting. The Timberwolves are going to get a little bit more aggressive here defensively. Not just through you, but also in the middle of the map. But Locke, key gunfight win. Tries to extend his life, needs some help, and Beeson's quick to provide some cover fire. Stuns will not get the job done as Locke will get out, no problem. And all of a sudden, Northwood is actually a little bit trapped. They're forced to make this rotation through A, not having any mid-map presence, and now it's on to Fame. He needs to get a read, and honestly, he needs to get a kill or two if Northwood want to have a chance of recovering this round, and how about it? Fame good for the opener. That will actually keep Westcliff a bit at bay as the full flank is now here for the T-Wolves.
They're going to fully read this, though. Beeson's on the bottom side of that staircase, expecting the challenge to come through. Gets caught in a sprint, but still gets the kill. Oh, no. But at this point, though, Radio has been able to get on the backside of Church, along with teammate of Fame. 2v2, 30 seconds remaining. With that bomb being carried by Lucasi, it looks like they're going to try to fully wrap back over towards A.
This is the right call. Set yourself up through fire for some clutch possibilities. And as Beasted denies the only defensive pressure out of Northwood with Radio playing topside Church, now it falls on to Fame. We'll have a decent idea that Beason's still going to be playing a clutch up spot at fire. He's shot at from behind. He has to force through. This is not going to work out. Really solid read from the Warriors. Knowing in that 2v2, you have to give yourself some sort of a post-plant setup, so why not do it through fire?
You knew that there was still going to be a player on the backside of Column, right? You knew that Fame was still back there. He found that one kill just outside of P2. When all of that was said and done, they had a great understanding that the flank was about to be coming through over by P5. They didn't see anything out from the window coming down from the well ramp, I should say. And they knew immediately there obviously has to be a player on the flank. And they deal with him not as cleanly as they would probably hope, but still get the kill regardless. Have themselves a 1-round lead.
Northwood really needs to get some participation out of Big Infinite. 0-10 combined for them.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's middle of the map,
that's way too free. This stun's going to land as well, but Locke can't quite get out through fire stairs. And with a nade connecting on the opposite side, that actually turns a first blood for Westcliff all of a sudden, 3v2. So now it's into a position where you've got a lot of the map looked at, and you know for a fact that no one is in your face if you're Northwood. Just comes down to collecting yourself and trying to get a plant.
They'll move their way over towards A. Should be able to get this rock dropped. How do you even react to this? Beeson is still up top. Is able to find one on a Chris Radial. So the bomb will go down, but forces out the 2v2 situation here. Now, if you're Beeson and Lucasi, you just stack up together, try to clear away as many corners from that north lane as possible.
Well, you've already cleared out fire. But instead of trying to reclaim and take mid-map, Westcliff is expecting some aggression over through field side, and Northwood have made the call, we need to reclaim topside fire. And as Fame takes some shots, the Warriors are going to realize this, but it very well may be too late. Beeson around the back. Not a lot of time for this play. He needs to pick up both, and Lucasi would then have to immediately hop for the fuse, and it's just not going to work out. Got a mantle. Got to go for it. Parkour! Not going to happen.
Yeah, again, it just mostly comes down to everything that you just said, man. Like if you find that kill, you cleared away top fire. There's no reason to try to clear away the top side of field. At that point, you just move together, you clear mid-map. Make sure that all those corners are clean. Maybe you fish out the trade, but from there on out, you would almost hope to maybe try to rewrap back through vines, if not get up inside top fire yourself for the play that you were kind of framing up. So you get one of your defensive players up to top fire, and then one player just hops on the defuse for the Overwatch play, but just a little bit too hesitant for my liking. All evened up going in round 7.
All being in trouble. Goodness, that would have been a huge first blood for the Warriors, but staying alive. And Radial stepping through you. Once again, this north side of the A site has just been defensively dominated. Beeson going to make problems occur in multiple fronts as he also wins the gunfight. Top side and Stoners! What? A huge double as Bink and Radial were right in his face. No problems, apparently. And it's infinite for what would have to be a 1v3. Get out of here.
Wow. Just wow. I mean, you cannot ask for anything more. Stoner's just locking down a line of sight. He found an ace a few rounds ago. You line up for Stoners, he will absolutely knock you down. You know, they made an LMG for him in this game, by the way. But even still, this Westcliff Warriors squad able to answer on back. But again, you got to go back to what is truly plaguing this Northwood roster. You need participation out of Bink. 40-007 needs to do something here.
He's already been tagged down. Beason's going to have an opportunity to try to cook some nades and really clear out fire. Yeah, it's actually teammates that come through. Bink, good to get out of there and stay alive. But as far as reclamation of the map is concerned, there's this once again, Northwood is a step late trying to fight through mid-map. Locke gets a really solid look in the middle, and he's going to know that, okay, there's going to be a play coming through Church. Stoners was ready for it, but still loses the gunfight to Fame. Lucasi also shrugged back. And that's actually an opportunity for Northwood to maybe even full wrap around the world here and rejoin with Bink. But the problem about it is it's just there's not a lot of ground to work with here. You've already got Westcliff trying to contain you, and that will be done. Wow.
All right, well, Bink puts himself on the board. 35 seconds remaining. This is doable, but they should be more than aware of what needs to be done. Locke, Lucasi, stacking up together. They're just going to put themselves at the backside of their spawn and just wait for the cow to come to them.
Nice shots for Bink. Takes a fun fight! Oh! You're trying to tell me this guy comes into the round 0-7 and then wins 3 incredible gunfights, 2 of which are just, you would think, impossible?
What? That first shot over top of the God Tank, he saw maybe a pixel and a half. And then the snap to follow through. Dude. Yes, sir, you might have been on a donut going into that round, but woo! Those are some crucial 3 kills that Bink just walked away with, evening things up going into round number 9. The offense for Westcliff will not see too much pressure in the middle of the map, besides the normal Beast and antics up in the top fire.
Locke this time. First time we'll see him actually make a play in through Church. Should be a free kill up top. and he gets there in time to make sure there is no initial gunfight win for Northwood. So that'll clear out A completely. Being able to clear out fire, though, leads to an opportunity for, honestly, Northwood could try to contest the exit quickly. And, oh, Stoner's just barely able to slide away. Stun will keep him locked into place. But look at the aggressiveness, the initiation on a lock. Wants to make sure high ground control on the backside is all in favor of Westcliff. And Stoner's, this timing is going to work out beautifully for him. Just trying to regain back topside fire. You do have to check this bomb, though. It's been a long time since they've looked at it. And as Stoner's makes a step forward, all of a sudden, the kills will come through. And yeah, as much as you have to like the idea from Westcliff, you get the full clearance of Church. You got to look at the bomb saying no one's on it. The long route for both of them to go back to fire means you have to go recheck it. And that timing just worked out too good for Northwood's defense to reclaim the bomb.
Yeah, it did. It really did. I really thought that Westcliff were just going to be content on playing that side. They had numbers on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a greedy play. It was egregious for Westcliff to say, well, technically it is planted for fire. It doesn't matter. You just have to check it with the time. You can just drop down low and maybe just play for the trade if both the other players from Northwood were just stacked up on top of each other. Not the case. Westcliff offered themselves up off of a fantastic opening round from Locke. Again, not afraid to get their hands dirty against some of the best here of Northwood. 3 players now offensively coming towards the B site.
Cost is in trouble, and there is no one to bail him out. Not good news. And the thing about that is I don't even know if Lucasi sees more than just Fame. So Westcliff are going to be a little bit slow trying to negate any sort of a post-plant setup. Good read here from Stoners. Does not get away, though. Fame there for the immediate response. Numbers with Northwood. More so now, and Infinite, well, he's got Beast and dead to rights. That one's going to hurt for Westcliff. 2 missed opportunities back-to-back, allowing the 1v2. Well, not really allowing it, but just getting styled on by Big first and foremost, and then missing out on a post-plant setup. Yeah, missed opportunities for Westcliff, and now they find themselves down 0-2.
Yep. Down in a map mode combination that was supposed to be really, really good for the Warriors. Again, when we were framing everything up, Northwood, their weakest game mode has been Search and Destroy, statistically, historically, throughout the entirety of the year. When these 4 players got together, Search and Destroy has not been good for them, and you got to see the reason why. Sometimes they are disjointed. Sometimes they get a little bit too cutesy with their timings, and they get first blood because of it. The numbers just slowly topple over top of each other. But when you think about these 4 players just on paper alone, it screams veteran. And it does say how much time has been spent between those 4 players. I want to say for the past, 7+ years, Lord knows what they were doing in, their early teenage years playing Call of Duty, but regardless of the matter, they understand what it means to be able to adapt, to be able to read the tendencies coming out from Westcliff, absolutely gobbled them up. That one round was highway robbery, keep in mind, because Westcliff did offer up that timing on the opposite side of fire, but regardless of the matter, got to be feeling it if you are the Warriors.
That right there, I would say the court can admit into Exhibit A of you make mistakes versus Northwood, they will punish you. Because honestly, it isn't even a situation where Northwood, I feel like, had a solid read on the ideas that Westcliff had. It just came down to not perfectly playing advantages if you're Westcliff, and it turns into individual moments because of that veteranship and experience that we kind of hit on. So what very well could have been a 6-4 the other way turns to Northwood now up 2-0. And my goodness, for Big to go from 0-7 to 6-8 just says enough, I think, in its own self for the last 3 rounds of that search.
That 8th death, he snapped. Something happened, and he just went on that 6th spree. What? Yeah. It's just it's insane. Because Beeston, again, when we were talking about this Westcliff Warriors squad, Beeston goes 10-6, by the way, 7 non-traded kills. But the amount of value and pressure that Beeson was constantly laying down on the middle of the map from either top Church or top Fire was absolutely amazing. And that was constantly looking to set up Locke in the middle of the map. And albeit they did it a handful of times, being able to fish out those timings, to be able to find those first bloods, to be able to find those openings, it just was not consistent enough to be able to find themselves rounds.
Couple of missed chances. Northwood now up 2-0. We send things to the map 2, map 3 break. It's Control up next. We'll see. I don't know. It's going to be hard, I think, for a lot of people to think about Westcliff finding reverse sweep, but that's what's now required. We'll be back after the break with more CCL playoffs. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the CCL playoffs. It's Northwood in the winner semifinal, currently up 2-0 versus Westcliff. And, well, that, of course, means reverse sweep time would have to come through for the Warriors, starting off with the, naturally, as we now know, the Control. And looking at the map set, we didn't really get a super good look at least to start this series, but it is a double dose of Berlin to come with a Bocage map 5 if we do get that far. And I think the biggest thing with double dose of Berlin coming up is map control, map presence. It's going to have to be better for Westcliff than it was on the Gavudu hard point we saw in map 1.
And you really do feel like this is going to be a difficult notion for the Warriors to be able to execute on, given how Gavudu did play out. To your point there, Alan, all of it was just Northwood all the time. It truly felt like, yeah, there were some moments of time to where the Warriors were able to at least get themselves in for some time, especially off the rip. But from there on out, as the scoreline would suggest, Northwood were not giving any beats. The map pressure, all the terrain, all the different fixtures for head glitches included were always in possession for Northwood, that their pace did not meet an end until the game was physically over. So when it comes down to Berlin control for the Warriors, you need someone to step up in a big way. 2 people would be great for this Westcliff Warriors roster to be able to pick in a map win over Northwood.
And then statistically, just to kind of really ice the cake here, we already mentioned that for Westcliff, not the biggest respawn team that's here, not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but Northwood, on average, not only are they perfect in control, their average win differential is 2.93. It means they're giving up 1 round every 10 times they play control. And perfection isn't even enough, I feel like, to kind of exemplify that statistic. So it's going to have to be something miraculous, you would have to feel like, out of Westcliff. But hey, you put yourself on Berlin, a map that, let's be honest, is probably the most 50-50 when it comes to either side of the control zones. And as there's a little bit of early pressure towards B, the focus for the Warriors over on the A site, problem about it is they really don't get too much with the attempt.
Yeah, it started off there, did the Warriors trying to get themselves at least some zone coverage over towards B. Fame found a timing, got in from behind with a submachine gun, and then they tried to rewrap through the middle of the map, get over towards A, and Stack did not live for that much longer. Northwood dictating the pace commandingly. 22v26, under 1 minute left. And the way that Westcliff Warriors are actually setting themselves up, I quite enjoy this. They're clearing away their backside. They're actually going for a full wrap all the way across the upper courtyard side. This is smart.
It's forcing a lot of 1v1s, and honestly, even if you lose the 1v1s, there are trades that could have came through here for the Warriors. Radial on 3 in a row, looking to solo defend over towards B. He does well to get a 4th. Link isn't really in a position to necessarily confirm a trade yet, so Northwood looking to make sure they've got some ground to work with defensively at A. We're going to be a little bit late here over towards B, and how about it? Beastin on another 2-piece. That'll lead to a good look at the second tick of progress. Fame quickly to re-enter. Lucasi, a bit of miss on the call out on where exactly Fame was hitting from. And with that, it's Northwood all over the B zone as they reclaim it.
Deny that second tick from getting halfway through. 5-life lead for the defensive team. They are just reading everything. Fame could not lock down one of those kills, but at least confirms that there's a lot more of a focus over towards speed. That should be at least double confirmed now that Chris has completely cleared away the side of upper courtyard. But at this point, losing the kills, you have no one in possession of the middle of the map anymore. You're losing more lives to speak of. If you dwindle it down to 3, I think you just chalk this B zone. If you're Northwood, you just go all in for this A zone hold.
It's not even just the A zone hold here for Northwood. They're looking for convincing train station control. I would say so far so good. Bank another slow start to a map for 0-4. As Radial's been doing a lot of the defensive work so far, not just 10 kills, but 4 of those were on the objective initially. So he's been the difference maker for this Northwood defense. Bank on the board, Radial following up, because able to get the second before Beastin does get involved, and that all of a sudden forces Westcliff into a do-or-die situation. Not a lives to play with. You have to break and still hold off at least one wave of Northwood players if you want to get this offense up toe.
Got to get out of your spawn. First and foremost, Lucasi, Beeson do well to at least couple together 2. Just at the moment that you felt like there was a breath of fresh air, Westcliff Warriors are down to a single respawn remaining. Need to get this trade on to Infinite and try to get on towards this A zone. Last possible attempt for these 4 players of the Warriors.
Good opening first blood. Northwood still looking to kind of finesse and hit rogue routes to make life difficult for the Warriors. Radial's pulling the lock actually does kind of assert some extra defensive dominance. Stoners trying to respond. Only good for 1, and it comes to a 1v5 for Lucasi. Long-range shots versus Bink were decent, but not good enough. So Northwood's defense completely stifles any attempts towards A, only giving away the first 3 ticks of progress at the B site. And we'll swap the sides to see what the Timberwolves want to do on their offense.
It's one of those things, again, when it comes into Berlin control, what players like both Radial, specifically Radial, I should say, and Fame were able to exploit continuously is that they were able to fish out these timings, get in from behind, find themselves a lot of kills to start things off. I mean, Chris. He's double positive. He's got 15
Gives
kills,
him one
bro.
round. Yeah.
That's half the amount of lives. That's math.
Yep.
Jesus.
Quick takeover towards B for Northwood. Defensively, it's just Beaston that's here for now. Does well to finesse his life, so try to create a little bit of time for the Warriors to get here defensively as the first tick of progress looks like it's surely going to be locked in, and it will be. Through the woodwork, Radial, lots of damage, but no kill. Stoner is able to finalize the elimination and now get a part of this defensive retake. But keep an eye on Northwood. It's not just that they've got control here at the B site. They've also got members that are already stretching over towards A, so it's a war on two fronts here for Northwood, and it's really working out nicely as the individual kills towards A are good. That'll at least allow the clock to stall, and even though we're tied in lives, the progress at B and now the progress at A is significant for Northwood.
Oh, Beaston's gonna get through sneaky. No one saw it happen. He's gonna come in. There's one more player to deal with. He has no idea where Infinite's located at. Wolf surface out from the small room. Gonna be able to take down one before they are traded out, but they are constantly trading this pressure for more and more map positioning. Each individual kill means something to Northwood. They're finding the kills. They have one player from behind. Radio gets spotted out, but they're still stopping the clock at A.
And yeah, Fames is cutting off the reinforcements. This has gone from bad to worse all of a sudden for Westcliff. And you have to chalk A, and that's not great news because not only are you going to miss out on the ability to stop the kills from, getting the easy claim of the A zone, don't even have the ability to stop an exit. So the life lead goes from only 3 to now 7 just in the blink of an eye. With only one tick to take as Fame secures the second. He may just get it done individually, but Westcliff do have the opportunity to neutralize and hopefully get some sort of a setup pending that they can take Infinite out of fire.
They have to deal with Infinite first and foremost. Infinite's going to be looking for spawn kills, going to be looking for exits, but is not looking at the right direction. Might be able to find a couple players from behind, but you still have to deal with these players that are inside the zone. They slide in. Radio finds 2. There's the third coming back in. Lucasi stood no chance at all. Radial is putting on a clinic here in map number 3.
And this is why we see Northwood not just constantly winning controls, but winning them in 3-0 forms very regularly. It's just, man, you really do see the difference, especially if you're somebody who was an avid viewer of either Challengers or the CDL during Toronto coming off of last weekend. You're starting to see the same things occur for Northwood. All these little finesse moments, delaying, getting an extra 5 to 10 seconds built into your team, whether that's on the offensive or defensive side, doesn't make a difference. It's just gaining so much opportunity where you've got the ability to at least guarantee a read, if not possibly, again, isolating Westcliff as much as humanly possible. So now for the Warriors, it's all 4 members over towards B. Good first blood on the old defender into Fame. And with this stack, that's going to be an easy first tick of progress with imminent threats towards more.
Be able to deal with Radial. Stoners does well to find that kill, but going all in for this B zone, not leaving anybody to watch that flank from behind. Really puts a lot of blind trust that one player watching that warehouse street can go big. And, well, Stoners did well to at least buy a lot of time and space for 2.5 segments of progression to come all the way through. Beaston's going to be left behind to play out their life, but they have to be careful because Radial's on the flank.
Infinite, again, trying to extend his life as long as possible. Will be denied. This has to turn into 60 seconds here for Westcliff. It just has to. The thing about it, though, is no one's really stacking for this, and as Fame gets a nade off spawn, he's able to turn that into more! My goodness! Over the top of the desk, takes the head off of Beaston, and Northwood all of a sudden don't just stop play at B. They're actually able to establish a bit of threat towards the spawns.
Yeah, they are. You're constantly seeing players like where Radio went on that flank, where Bink is positioned at. They'll constantly keep all the Warriors spun up on that northeast side of the map. And Northwood understand that. They're looking to absolutely feast, but they cannot find an opportunity to get inside the B zone to stop that third tick of progress to come all the way through. So 60 seconds will be added on towards the board, but now not only do you have to try to get over towards this A zone, get this converted, get an offensive run win, you have to still deal with these players that are in your spawn.
I mean, Stoners knows where Bink is, but look how much time he's going off the clock. That was 20 seconds. Bink just extended this defensive play. And all of a sudden, Chris on the other side is almost doing the exact same thing. It's just as soon as you start to feel like you've got success on one side of the map, all of a sudden the other side starts to show that, wait a second, we're still kind of trapped. Good clearance, though. Still 60 seconds to the clock. 15 lives up for both teams. And Beaston's going to make an aggressive play. Number 1 in yellow is already going to play up through fire. This is going to force Northwood to have to clear him, but the Warriors need to get this play from the front going. You can't just let Beaston stay back here by himself, and as they start to step forward, Infinite deals with the opener. There's no trade to be confirmed, and Beaston's kind of stuck here. He needs kills from the front if he's going to pull this flank off.
Yeah, and it's that little bit of hesitation that just allows Northwood to recognize, hey, if the Warriors aren't going to make a play, we'll slowly encroach forward and push this line of scrimmage forward. Lucasi, last player alive, pushed up first and foremost. It should be absolutely collapsed on, and it will be. That'll allow Bink to take a more keen focus out from the railroad track. Although they will be traded out, you're down to 20 seconds, and Northwood Esports are looking at a 3-0.
Yeah, and Infinite can still lock down this train track side. Radial off the respawn there to help, and oh boy. 10 playing up against 6. Lucasi's long flank with probably the last-ditch effort that Westcliff could have used to try to extend his offense, but as he gets shut down, so will the Warriors in full. It's happened a bunch throughout the regular season, more so in the playoffs. Northwood, by far, dominated the Map 3 conversation as far as these 8 LAN teams are concerned. That holds true here against Westcliff as they find their 3-0. This is very characteristic of them.
Yeah, oh, it absolutely is. Again, I mean, I will physically have nightmares for the next week about what I just saw Radial had in that first round.
Yeah, for real.
15-7 through one round? You kidding me, Chris? You kidding me? This is just... It's insanity, because it's just timing after timing, and you highlighted it so wonderfully during that final round, that if you deal with one player that's already looking at you off your spawn, great, gold star. But there's still 3 more golden stars you have to deal with, and that's what makes this Northwood team so deadly on control, is that they do such a great job at making sure that their flank is always taking a look at. They're always cycling players out to flank, if not look for spawn trap situations, and more often than not, I would say the majority, because they even 3-0'd Bay State on control when they played this season. They get away with it every single time. They are so confident on that mode.
It's good manipulation, honestly. It's just kind of what you come to expect. And while we look back at the stats, as you had mentioned, the first 15 kills in round 1 for Radial ended up finishing 26-18 with nearly 3K damage.
Not really slowed up there.
Just the worst. Just very mediocre gameplay. Golly, dude. That is just such an unbelievable first round. And on the other side, the Stoners put together a great round, but it's just the moments that Locke was trying to make rogue routes happen or try to extend pressure, it never worked out. It's just those 1v1s is what we continue to look at. Like a 1v1 here or there may seem negligible, but when it's happening time and time again, it's allowing Northwood to play on both sides of the map, and you could really get that looking at Locke's scoreline that Westcliff was not able to do the same thing.
Disjointed, hesitant words. It's... Warriors, I mean, look, we called it what it was. They legitimately had a tough round 2 matchup. Everything is going to be very difficult going forward. Now down to the lower bracket, the Warriors will go, but you should not feel terrible. I mean, that search and destroy was close. Definitely had opportunities to be able to at least close out that map number 2. We knew that the control was going to be a very difficult one. Yeah. So it just comes down to when you are facing these top teams, search and destroy should still be your bread and butter, but you gotta be able to clean up at least a respawn or 2. If it's not gonna be the control, surely there has to be a good hardpoint pick out for you somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think respawn is always going to be looking at this Westcliff team the biggest vulnerability for them, and having that be the case, going up against one of the best, if not the best, respawn team that's here. As much as we hate to say it, those were kind of the results that were expected. And I think just going further and just taking what we learned from Westcliff is, you know, we say this all the time, but we really did get it as Exhibit A. You cannot afford to make mistakes versus these top 3 teams that are out here, because missing opportunities like that are the difference between extending the series and possibly giving you more chances to upset versus missing out on what should be a guarantee, and it puts you into a position to where it's kind of like, well, backs up against the wall almost instantaneously. Yeah,
I mean, it just the one last little bit of dissection that I have is specifically for the Warriors, is that when they had an opportunity, they had that one chance to be able to close out a round, if not being able to get themselves a further advantage in that control. It's trying to do too much with what advantages you already have. There's no reason, again, to overextend yourself. If you already cleared away one part of the map, push that all the way through. Don't worry about the rest of the map. If you already have coverage on one side, you might as well make that your point of contact and interest, like that search and destroy round. You're on church side. There's no reason to try to go back over towards fire. I'm mad. I'm physically upset. We talked about it in our break. But even so, it's the same thing that could be said about the control. They had themselves any sort of advantage over towards that B lane, and then they over-aggressed themselves trying to get back through train station. Why? Just flank it.
Well, we'll take a look, see what that means as far as the bracket is concerned, and get you fully updated, as not only did this series end, but simultaneously speaking, also the other winner semi had come to a close. That matchup saw Bay State go up against St. Edwards, and St. Edwards did fall in map number 4 after a 3-2 Tuscan Control win. So it will be kind of what everyone expected. Number 1 will play up against number 2. That is a matchup scheduled for tomorrow in the winners finals. For us, though, we head on down to the lower bracket next. Lower round 1, we'll see Ottawa play up against Davenport, and Southern Illinois and Edwardsville take on the Canadians in St. Clair and the Saints. With that in mind, of course, we'll take some time to get everything set up on our end, but we've got so much still to come here for the CCL playoffs. Do not miss out. And while we're away, how about a little trivia for you to consider, as we have a little bit of this, I don't really know if I want to call it CCL trivia, but it's COD trivia powered by Fandom. We'll see you at the backside of the break, and make sure you're ready to go with the poll selections to see how smart you might be in COD.